Hello friends, welcome to class of Transportation Engineering. In this lecture we will continue with the same chapter, that is the flexible pavement design. Before going on to the topics, let us first see where were we in our syllabus. So we have already covered introduction to highways, the highway geometry design we have completed, traffic engineering we have covered, highway materials and testing is also over. Currently we are discussing the pavement design. Okay, in pavement design we are discussing the flexible pavements. Okay, in this lecture we will continue with discussion on the flexible pavements. We will learn how to design the flexible pavements, then we will learn design of rigid pavements, then two small topics, that is the airport engineering and the railway engineering. So let us now move ahead to discuss the topics on the uh, flexible pavement design. In the previous lecture what we discussed was the anticipated traffic, and now we also took one numerical question on that, and now let's move ahead to discuss how to analyze the design traffic. Okay, so analyze the design traffic is given as commercial vehicles per day. Okay, commercial vehicles per day, but how to analyze that? So for that you will have to calculate design traffic based on 7-day 24 hours traffic count. Okay, 7-day 24 hours traffic count as per IRC. Okay, as per IRC 9. So in this what you will have to do is stand beside the road for continuously for 7 days. Okay, 7 days continuously, and count the number of commercial vehicles, only the commercial vehicles. Okay, now commercial vehicles we have already discussed what commercial vehicles are. Okay, or there are different methods to do that. You can do recordings and all. There are different methods for this, but aim is to find out the number of commercial vehicles for 7 days continuously for 7 days. Okay, 7 by 24. Okay, so 7 by 24 you will be counting the vehicles. Okay, and what you will have to do is to convert this into the commercial vehicles per day. So just divide this number by 7. Okay, so you will get commercial vehicles per day, that is regarded as the design traffic volume in case of pavement designs. Okay, so now let's discuss the design wheel loads. So design wheel loads for flexible pavements and rigid pavements are different. Okay, as far as flexible pavements are concerned, okay, as far as flexible pavements are concerned, the axle load is this one. Okay, suppose this is the axle, and 8200 kg, it is the, so it is the equivalent single equivalent single axle load. Okay, single axle load, sorry, axle load we are discussing currently for the flexible pavements. Okay, exclusively for the flexible pavements I am discussing this. So the equivalent single wheel load comes out to be 4100 kg, that is the equivalent single wheel load, single wheel load. Okay, so this is for single axle and flexible pavement. Okay, flexible pavement. So similarly there is design wheel load for rigid pavements. Okay, so the for rigid pavement equivalent single axle load, it is 10,200 kg, it is equivalent single axle load, and equivalent single wheel load comes out to be 5,100 kg. Okay, 5,100 kg. So this is the equivalent single wheel load, equivalent single wheel load for rigid pavements. Okay, rigid pavements, single axle. Okay, so what is single axle? Suppose there is truck like this. Okay, so there will be here front axle like this, and one or two axles here, and it will be loaded like this. Okay, so this is the single axle. Okay, both the vehicles, the single axle. And if there are two axles like this, then it is called the tandem axle. Tandem, tandem axle. Tandem spelling, if you are not able to see, then I am writing here tandem axle. Okay. If the scenario is different, so again there is truck like this, and there are three axles over here, and then it is tridem axle. Tridem axle. Okay, it is tridem axle. So what is the use of providing more number of axles is the question. Okay, so more is the number of axles, more is the number of axles, more uniform is the load distribution, is the load distribution, and which stands for less damage to the road. Okay, less damage to the road. Okay, so more is the number of axles, more uniform is the load distribution, and less damage to the road. So whenever the vehicles are whenever the vehicles are very heavily loaded, that time we need to provide more number of axles. So more uniform is the load distribution. Okay, so at the same time what happens is the carrying capacity of the vehicle increases. The load carrying capacity of the vehicle increases. Okay, load carrying capacity of the vehicle increases. So what is the maximum wheel load for the pavement design? Maximum wheel load for pavement design. Okay, so design of pavement is passed on 98th percentile of the axle load. So design of pavement is passed on 98th percentile of the wheel load. Okay, 90th percentile of the wheel load. So 90th percentile of the wheel load is regarded as the design load. Okay, so how does this affect? How does the design load affects? Is it is quite logical that total load influence the thickness requirement of the pavement. Okay, so total load influences the thickness requirement of pavement. Okay, thickness requirement. So more is the road, more thicker you need the pavement. Okay, thickness requirement of pavement. And next thing is that tire pressure influences the quality of surface course. Okay, so the tire pressure tire pressure influences the surface course quality. Surface course quality. Okay, the surface course quality. Okay, so how does this affect the surface course quality? that we will discuss in the subsequent topics. And let us now discuss the contact pressure. Okay, contact pressure. For that we are discussing the contact pressure now. Okay, so contact pressure is the load on wheel. It is given as load on wheel, load on wheel upon the contact area, which is also called area of imprint, area of imprint. Okay, and suppose that there is axle like this. Okay, there is an axle like this. These two are the wheels. Okay, so contact pressure will be measured over here. Okay, the contact between the wheel and the pavement. Okay, so usually the contact area is elliptical. Okay, I'll give it as a note. Okay, so this area, this circle. Okay, this circle, it is circular, having radius equal to a. Okay, small a is the radius, which is also called as the contact radius. Okay, contact radius, and which is given as 15 centimeter as per IRC. Okay, 15 centimeter as per IRC. And there will be some tire pressure. Okay, inside this wheel, TP, denoted by T suffix P, which is called as the tire pressure. Okay, the tire pressure. So in reality, the contact area between road and the tire is elliptical, but for simplicity in design, what we do is we take it as circular one. Okay, so and a value is taken to be 15 centimeter as per IRC. So please make a note that the actual contact area, the actual contact area as area between road and tire is road and tire is elliptical, but for simplicity, please check for the spellings. Okay guys, in design we consider it as, for simplicity in design, we consider it as circular one, having a equal to 15 centimeter as per IRC. Okay, which is given by IRC. And the pressure of inflated tires, the pressure of inflated air in tires is called tire pressure. Tire pressure. So it is pressure of inflated air in the tires, that is called the tire pressure. So one more term is defined, called as the rigidity factor. Rigidity factor, which is based on the contact pressure and the tire pressure, which is given as contact pressure upon the tire pressure. Okay, the tire pressure. Okay, so in general contact pressure is almost constant. Okay, it is almost constant for all. Okay, constant for all the vehicles. Okay, for all cases. And but the tire pressure, this value changes with air present inside the tire. So it changes with air present inside tire. Okay, air present inside tire. Okay, so based on the this variable, okay, based on the tire pressure, the rigidity factor changes. Okay, since contact pressure is almost same in all the cases, so please make a note that in general contact pressure is almost in all the cases. Contact pressure is almost constant, almost constant, but the tire pressure keeps on changing. So it is for various cases, okay, but the tire pressure changes, okay, and it is experimentally proved for Indian conditions that for an ideal vehicle moving ideally on the road, okay, so please write down that experimentally it is proved for Indian conditions that for an ideal vehicle moving ideally on the road, moving ideally on road, point number one is that if tire pressure is equal to 7 kg per centimeter square, that is point 0.7 MPa, okay, 7 kg per centimeter square stands for 0.7 MPa, then Cp, then the Cp value, the contact pressure value is also equal to 7 kg per centimeter square, that is 0.7 MPa, okay. That means rigidity factor, which is Cp upon Tp, is equal to 7 by 7 equal to 1, okay. So rigidity factor is equal to 1 whenever the tire pressure is equal to 7 kg per centimeter square. So the next case is that, okay, so this is very important and you should remember it well, that whenever tire pressure is equal to 7 kg per centimeter square, then the contact pressure is also 7 kg per centimeter square. In short, the rigidity factor is equal to 1, okay. So if tire pressure is less than 7 kg per centimeter square, then the rigidity factor is greater than 1, that is the vehicle is more rigid on road, more rigid on road, okay. It is very important thing to note down, okay, and which means more rigid on road means more wear and tear, more wear and tear of materials in contact, okay, more wear and tear of materials in contact, okay. And whenever if tire pressure is greater than 7 kg per centimeter square, the rigidity factor is less than 1, okay, the rigidity factor is less than 1, and so as per IRC, so ideally, not as per IRC, but ideally it is desirable to maintain the uh, tire pressure at 7, okay, 7 kg per centimeter square, that is 0.7 MPa, okay. So in practice it is better to have tire pressure that is greater than 7 kg per centimeter square, because it is difficult to maintain the 7 kg per centimeter square exactly, okay. So that is the reason, as per IRC, as per IRC, the recommended the recommended tire pressure is tire pressure is 8 kg per centimeter square, that is 0.8 MPa, okay, that is equal to 0.8 MPa, which stands for, if this is the case, If this is the case, then rigidity factor is less than 1, that is gives less wear and tear, okay, less wear and tear, okay, so which again stands for less fuel consumption, okay. Please write down less fuel consumption, okay. So at this 0.8 MPa, this 0.8 MPa stands for 30 psi, 30 psi, okay, which is equal to 30 psi. And so you might have seen that the requirement is 30. 30 in what units? Units are the 30 psi as the tire pressure whenever you go and check the pressure of the tires of your vehicle, okay. And nowadays nitrogen is used in high speed vehicles. Please, for your information, make this note that nowadays nitrogen is used, nitrogen is used in high speed vehicles, okay, high speed vehicles. So what happens is that as tires heat up, okay, as tires heat up, air expands, okay, air expands, and pressure, high pressures build up, and the tire bursts, okay. So but nitrogen doesn't expand much, okay, comparatively, but nitrogen doesn't expand much, nitrogen doesn't expand much, okay. So it is almost an ideal gas that doesn't expand much, and that is the reason there is less danger of the bursting of tires, okay. So that is the reason nowadays the nitrogen is used for the air, in place of air in the tires, okay. So we will discuss the equivalent single wheel load, that is ESQL, okay, equivalent single wheel load for the axles having wheel arrangement like this, okay. That is for the tandem axles or the tridem axles. What happens that there are two wheels attached on each side of the axle, okay. So this is the axle and there will be two wheels, okay. But as per the IRC, okay, what design wheel loads we discussed was like this, okay. The design wheel loads were of this kind, okay. So we discussed design wheel loads for the single wheels on either of the sides, but there are two wheels in this case. So what should be done? How to calculate the single equivalent single wheel load in these cases, okay. So if there is an axle having two wheels on either of the sides, okay, wheel number one and here the another one, okay. I'll I'll like to draw and it's a like the enlarged view, okay. um, okay, I'll draw it as an enlarged view. So this is one wheel and this one is the another wheel, okay. Yes, and there is axle like this and there are again the same assembly is on this side, okay. Here also the same assembly. Suppose the clear distance between these two wheels is small d, okay. Small d is the clear distance between these two wheels, and there will be load acting at the center like this. Say it is load P, okay, P on each of the wheels, and this one is the center to center distance between the two wheels, that is S, okay. And this is the surface or something you say, okay. So in such cases the stress distribution will be of this kind, okay. These two lines will be parallel to each other, and here also the two lines will be parallel to each other, and this angle is 45 degrees, okay. The angle is 45 degrees, okay. So up to this region, okay, this portion which is equal to d by 2, okay, which is d by 2, okay. In this region, the equivalent single wheel load will be given as P itself, okay. The equivalent single wheel load in this region, okay, will be given as P itself, okay. And equivalent single wheel load up to distance, here I'll write, okay, say up to distance twice of S, okay, up to distance 2S, up to distance 2S, up to this, okay. uh, it varies from equivalent single wheel load varies from P to P with log variation, okay, with log variation. It is very important. In this region, the equivalent single wheel load varies from P2 to P with log variation, and equivalent single wheel load beyond 2S, equivalent single wheel load beyond 2S is equal to 2P, okay. So up to this distance, that is d by 2, it is P for sure, the compound value. Here it is beyond 2S, it is 2P, okay, beyond 2S it is 2P, where S is the center to center distance between the two wheels and D is the clear distance between two wheels, okay. And the between D by 2 and 2S, the equivalent single wheel load varies from P to 2P with the log variation, okay. So how to go about this log variation, that we will discuss while solving an example based on this, okay. So please write down an example now. So please write down a question, okay. Question that in a dual wheel assembly of truck, in a dual wheel assembly of truck, the load on each tire equal to 3500 kg. The load on each tire is equal to 3500 kg. The center to center distance between two tires is 40 centimeter, and the clear distance, okay, the clear distance between the tires is between the two tires is 25 centimeter, okay. Determine the equivalent single wheel load at depth of, first is 10 centimeter, second is 60 centimeter, third one is 1 meter from the road surface, okay, from the road surface, okay guys. So the cases of this kind, for your simplicity I'll draw it over here. There is a dual wheel assembly, okay, two wheels on each of the sides. This is the surface, okay. So the given data says that load is P equal to, here and here it is P, say, which is equal to 3500 kg, okay, on each of the wheels. There will be axle of this kind, okay. Here also there will be two wheels. So understand what are we exactly discussing, what are the two wheels that we are discussing in this case, okay. So the center to center distance between the two wheels is 40 centimeter, okay. So this distance is S equal to 40 centimeter, and this clear distance, that is D, which is equal to, here I am writing, that is 25 centimeters, okay. So they are asking that there are two wheels, if what will be equivalent single wheel load for these two wheels, okay. So convert this particular load case into the equivalent single wheel load at depth of 10 centimeters, 60 centimeters and 1 meter from the road surface, and that is your duty to try out on your own. I'll give you time of say 45 to 60 seconds. Please try it out. You can just turn back the pages and look at the stress distribution and find out. Okay. So as we have discussed earlier, okay, so as we have discussed earlier, the stress distribution is of this kind, 45 degrees. Okay, sorry, this you should draw it properly. This is okay, it is 45 degrees, like this, here and here. So this distance, when it is 45 degrees, it comes out to be d by 2, where the pressure distribution, where the pressure is P equal to, at distance up to distance d by 2, P equal to equivalent single wheel load is equal to P itself, that is equal to 3500 kg up to distance d by 2. Here d is given to be the distance, the clear distance between the two wheels is d, and it is given to be 25 centimeters. So d by 2 equal to 12.5 centimeter. Okay, so up to d by 2 means up to 12.5 centimeter. Okay, yes, and beyond 2s, okay, beyond 2s, here the s value is 40 centimeter, so that is equal to 80 centimeter. Okay, so beyond this 80 centimeter, equivalent single wheel load is equal to 2p, which is equal to 3500 into 2, that is 7000 kg. Okay, 7000 kg. So we are now left with the calculation for equivalent single wheel load between this 12.5 centimeters to 80 centimeters. Okay, and you see up to 12.5 centimeters it is 3500 kg. That means at 10 centimeter the equivalent single wheel load is equal to 3500 kg. From here it is clear. Okay, so at 60 centimeter it is not known to us because we have not calculated the logarithmic variation between these two, which we will do right now. And at 1 meter from the road surface, that is at 100 centimeter, which is greater than the 80 centimeter, and from beyond 80 centimeters it was 7000 kg. Okay, so here for this case 7000 kg was the equivalent single wheel load. Okay, so let us now find out the equivalent single wheel load for at depth of 60 centimeter. Okay, yes, at the depth of 60 centimeters. So we know that from distance d by 2, okay, d by 2 to 2s, between these two, d by 2 to 2s, equivalent single wheel load is p to 2p. Okay, so here it is p value over here, and at this point here it is 2p value. Okay, at this point it is 2p, the value is 2p. So it is between p to 2p with logarithmic variation. Okay, with logarithmic variation, with logarithmic variation. Okay, so by interpolation, just for your information, d by 2 is 12.5 centimeters and 2s is equal to 80 centimeters. So by interpolation, log of 12.5 is log of 3500, and at log they are asking at 60 centimeters. Okay, so log 60 value will be what, and log 80 is known to us that it is log of 7000. Okay, so we will just write it as log 12.5 is 1.09. For this it is 3.04. Log 60 1.30, what value? Okay, and 1.90, it is 3.84. So now it is simple interpolation for this value, and please calculate this particular value. Okay guys, this value. So in place of here it is not 1.30, it is 1.77. Okay, and it is not 3.04, it is 3.54. Okay, log to the base 10. Okay, now please do the interpolation. Okay, for your simplicity I'll write it over here that you want to interpolate with the value, this value. Okay, it is of this kind one. You want to interpolate this value, and it is 1.90 and 3.84. Okay, so your calculation will be like this: 3.54, say this is x, so x equal to 3.54 plus, so these two values, 3.84 minus 3.54 upon 1.90 minus 1.09, 1.90 minus 1.09 into 1.77 minus 1.09. Please tell me what is the value of this. So I hope you know how this I have written. Okay, how this comes. If you don't understand how this comes, then go back to home, apply some logic, you will get the answer. Okay, there is nothing great in this. So the answer comes out to be 3.79. Okay, x value is 3.79. 3.79. So which stands for log of some value. Okay, some equivalent single wheel load at 60 centimeters distance is equal to 3.79. Okay, and so equivalent single wheel load at 60 centimeter, okay, distance is equal to depth is equal to antilog of 3.79, which is equal to 6192.29 kg. Okay, so I hope you people understood how we have reached this step. Okay, reached this answer 6192.29 kg. So you see that we were over here. Okay, so up to d by 2 it is 3500 up to this distance, which is equal to p itself. At depth greater than 2s it is 7000 kg. Okay, 7000 kg the equivalent single wheel load, and between this there is logarithmic variation of the equivalent single wheel load from p to 2p, and our 60 centimeters was lying over here somewhere between this. So we found out that at 60 centimeters the equivalent single wheel load comes out to be 6192.29 kg. So there is a question for you from my side. Let's say that we are asked to find out the equivalent single wheel load at distance 20 centimeters, okay, at distance 20 centimeters, then what will be the equivalent single wheel load? So please write down. For homework, it is homework question, equivalent single wheel load at 20 centimeters of depth, okay, is what? So please find out, and I guess the answer comes out to be 4147.41 kg, okay, 4147 4147.41 kg. Okay, so now let's discuss what is repetition of roads. Okay, repetition of roads. I'll just write down some relationship. P1N1 equal to P2N2 equal to P3N3 equal to PNNN, NN small n, okay, where P is magnitude of load, okay, and N is number of repetitions, okay. So these are various cases, first case, second case, third case, and number of cases, okay. So what does this mean is that the less magnitude load with more number of repetitions, okay, and a more magnitude load with less number of repetitions gives the same effect. Please write down, it is very important. Less magnitude load with more repetitions, and more magnitude load with less repetitions. Less repetitions gives the same effect. Okay guys, it is very important. It gives the same effect. So let us now discuss the flexible pavement design methods. Okay, flexible pavement design methods. Flexible pavement design methods. Okay, so one of the methods is, sorry, the theoretical method, the theoretical method, that is the Burmester method, okay. It is outdated, it is outdated since soil is highly non-homogeneous, since soil is highly non-homogeneous, okay, and you cannot use much of its theory to all soils, okay, to all soils, which is the reason that this theoretical method, guys, please bear with my handwriting and the spelling, okay, spellings, please. You cannot use much of this theory to all the soils, okay. I'm going quite slow so that you can also listen and write down, okay. Second method for flexible pavement designs is the semi-empirical or the semi-theoretical method. Semi-empirical or the semi-theoretical method, okay. So it is the triaxial test method by Kansas State Highway Department. Kansas State Highway Department. It is also an outdated one, and I don't have much idea about it. Okay, and the third method is the empirical method. Empirical method. Okay, which is the modified CBR method. Modified CBR method. Okay, IRC 37, IRC 37, 2012 uses this method. Uses this method. Okay, though it is an empirical method. Okay, this IRC 2012, in practice it came in 2015. Okay, guys, it is very recent. So let us discuss what this modified CBR method is. Okay, so for this method, the data required is first thing that you need is the CBR of subgrade soils. CBR of subgrade soils. Okay, CBR of subgrade soils. Secondly, what you need is the number of cumulative standard axles. Okay, in the life of the road. Number of cumulative standard axles. That is CSA, cumulative standard axles in the life of the road, in the design life of the road. Okay, and so how to find out this number of cumulative standard axles, the CSA, of in the design life of the road? And this question is asked almost for every alternate years, or you say that in GATE this question is one of the questions that is been asked almost every alternate years. Okay, so number of cumulative standard axles is given as by this formula. Number of CSA is given as 365 by R. Okay, small r, 1 plus r to the power n minus 1 into a into d into f. Okay, so you may write it this way: 365 by r, 1 plus r to the power n minus 1. Okay, ADF simply. So into ADF, so that you can easily remember this. Okay, so where A is the initial traffic in the year of completion of construction. Okay, A is the initial traffic initial traffic in the year of completion of construction. Okay, in terms of commercial vehicles per day. Okay, in terms of commercial vehicles per day. N is design life in years. N is design life in years. Okay, D is the lane distribution factor. Lane distribution factor, that is LDF. Okay, and F is the vehicle damage factor. Vehicle damage factor, that is VDF. Okay, we will be discussing each of these terms into details. Okay, so you need to remember this formula. Okay, you need to compulsory remember this formula. Let us discuss the terms now. The lane distribution factors we will discuss. Lane distribution factors. Okay, so case 1 is that on single lane road, on single lane road, the lane distribution factor, that is the D is equal to 1. Okay, so you see that there is single lane road like this, vehicles are moving like this and like this, so that in this case the lane distribution factor is 1. I will not explain how, but when I'll give you the next example, that is the two lane single carriageway. Okay, two lane single carriageway. In case of two lane single carriageway, the case is of this kind, that the width of two lane single carriageway is equal to 7 meters. Okay, and the vehicles are moving like this also and in this direction also. Single carriageway stands for no median. Okay, there is no median. No median means no divider. In this case, the lane distribution factor LDF is equal to 0.75. Okay, the lane distribution factor is 0.75. This is for each lane. Okay, for each lane, 0.75 for each lane, because it is less than 1, less than 1 because there is chance of shifting of lanes by the vehicles. Okay, for overtaking and crossing, please write down, it is because there is chance of shifting of lanes by vehicles, shifting of lanes by vehicles. Okay, for overtaking and crossing, for overtaking and crossing. Okay, so in this case the commercial vehicles in both the directions should be considered. Okay, the commercial vehicles in both the directions should be considered in all the cases wherever there is no median. Okay, please make a note that I'll be taking up next cases also. Note that commercial vehicles in both the directions should be considered, should be considered. Okay, in all the cases, in all the cases where there is no median or the divider, where there is no median or the divider. Okay, or the divider. Okay guys, so let's discuss the next case, that dual two lane single way roads. So dual two lane single dual two lane single carriageway roads, single carriageway roads. Okay, so the case is it should not be single carriageway, it should be dual two lane carriageway roads. So by this what I mean to say is that it is dual means there is a median like this. Okay, so there is a median like this, there is a divider like this, and two lane. Okay, so there are on each of the sides there are two lanes. This is what I mean to say. And so in this case the vehicles will be moving like this, and on this side the vehicles will be moving like this. Okay, so here also the load distribution factor is equal to 0.75, which is less than 1, because there is chance that the vehicles will be shifting their lanes. Okay, for crossing and overtaking. Okay, so in this case, see, we are considering the commercial vehicles in only one direction, as there is divider in the road. And what my earlier note was that whenever there is no divider, you should consider the commercial vehicles in both the directions. So this is the point to be made, that whenever there is a divider, you should consider the commercial vehicles in only one direction. Okay, So we will be taking up numericals based on this. Yes, we still have some time left, so let's take numericals. Okay, so suppose there is road like this, okay, and there is a divider in this way. Okay, there is a divider over here like this, and in this direction there are 4,500 commercial vehicles per day. Okay, and here also there are 4,500 commercial vehicles per day. Okay, so for entire road CV is given to be 9,000 commercial vehicles per day. Okay, so what will be the design value? Okay, for commercial vehicles per day, that will be number of vehicles on each lane, number of vehicles on each lane. We calculate it always for the each lane. Okay, for each lane equal to 0.75 into 4500, that is equal to 3300 commercial vehicles per day. Okay, but if the case was of this kind, okay, that it was a case like this, that the road is of this kind and vehicles are moving in this way and in this way, and suppose there are 1000 commercial vehicles per day, the number of vehicles on each lane, number of vehicles on each lane will be equal to 0.75 into 1000, which is equal to 750 commercial vehicles per day. Okay guys, so every time we are coming back to the number of vehicles on each lane. Okay, on each lane we are calculating every time. The reason being, okay, this formula, okay, this formula, okay, this formula here I have forgotten to mention. Okay, in this, for this formula, this is based on this design, the CBR, modified CBR method. Okay, that is adopted by IRC 37. The design is based on cumulative number of standard axles in the lane carrying the maximum traffic. Okay, so this is, okay, this is based on, this formula is for, or this method is based on cumulative number of, please write down, it is very important, cumulative number of standard axles. Okay, cumulative number of standard axles in the lane carrying maximum traffic, in the lane carrying maximum traffic. Okay, so this n value that we find out is for the one particular lane. Okay, that is the critical lane, that is the lane that is having the maximum traffic, but we need to use this lane distribution factor because there is chance that the vehicles keep on shifting the lane. Okay, not necessarily that they are going to continuously remain in this lane which we have considered as the critical lane. Okay, so this complete method is based on the cumulative number of standard axles in the lane carrying the maximum traffic. I should have mentioned this earlier. Okay, so I hope it is clear that what is the need for using the lane distribution factors. Okay, and how to calculate the lane distribution factor and how to calculate the number of vehicles on each lane. Okay, so or on the lane that we considered as critical one. Okay, so in this way we will be continuing, we will be understanding meaning of each and every term in this formula. Okay, and we will learn how to find out the cumulative standard axles. Okay, in the next lecture. Okay guys, so we will stop over here. Thank you so much. See you in the next lecture.